What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to an episode of Steelers Breakdown here on Penn Live. Nick Faribault here, talking with you all. And today we're talking offensive tackles because this has become a story, hasn't it? Over the past an hour or so. Ray Fittipaldo went on 93.7 The Fan and said that he believes the starting tackles this week will be Dan Moore Jr. at left tackle and Troy Fautanu at right tackle. And I don't disagree. And that was what it was at practice today. Troy Fautanu confirmed that he was at right tackle. Spencer Anderson confirmed to me that he played both next to Roderick Jones and Dan Moore. So all of these things were 100% confirmed. So, there was a mix of Moore and Jones with the first team at left tackle, and Fautanu took every single right tackle rep. And that is interesting to me. I didn't expect that, but it says a few things. One, boy, did this team believe in Troy Fautanu, and I believe they should. I love Troy Fautanu. This guy, I think, is ready to go. I don't think there's any reason for him to sit. I don't think he's going to learn anything more sitting. He's fully healthy now. He looks great. He's moving around out there like he was in training camp, and his athleticism in space could do wonders for this team. But also, man, does this stink if this ends up happening. Now, there's no guarantee it 100% does. We'll still see what the reps look like tomorrow, and I'll obviously talk about that tomorrow. But let's talk about where we are at with this tackle. First of all, Dan Moore Jr. played one heck of a game against the Atlanta Falcons. I'm not sure if you can find many games in his career, if any at all, where he played this well, but he played at a very high level. He looked fantastic against the Atlanta Falcons. And yeah, it absolutely means something to play that well. And listen, there were a lot of questions about how he would perform, but you kind of knew what maybe he was going to be coming into the year. But he had one of his best games in week one. And so the stock arrow is up on Dan Moore. He's held guys off. I mean, that does matter when you're talking about what to do at tackle. And he certainly has done that. So, first of all, credit to Dan Moore for that. Because, I mean, if you saw that coming, I'm not sure I did, but he has played well. Two, I think you also look at Fautanu and say, this guy has to play, right? At some point, this guy has to play. He's not a raw player that can come in here and just sit. Like, that is not what Troy Fautanu needs. I think you could make a big time argument that that's what Broderick Jones maybe needed last year. But this year, this is not what Troy Fautanu needs. What Troy Fautanu needs is to play. To learn the NFL. He's ready to go. He's not a raw player. So he is ready to play. And so you gotta play the guy. The issue is, are you really gonna do that at the expense of Broderick Jones? And listen, we've talked about Broderick Jones on here a lot. His preseason struggles, man, they were significant. They weren't just minuscule. They were far and wide. And so, yeah, I think there was a lot of concern about him. He probably put up his best performance against the Falcons. And so you quelled some of those concerns, but he did have some help. You put some, chips over to that side. You put some tight ends over to that side. You also made sure that really the entire O line as a whole didn't have too many true pass sets. They had about 10 true pass sets, which simply means throws that, weren't rollouts, throws that were between 2 and 4 seconds, basically one on one true pass sets. And so you didn't see a ton of them, but he didn't really get beat significantly on any of them. Now, I didn't feel like the run game tape was elite, but it wasn't standout bad either. It definitely could have been better, but it wasn't super bad. And so If Broderick Jones had finally turned that corner at right tackle, you're like, well, just keep playing him. But you have a hard decision to make there. If you believe Dan Moore has taken a leap in his play, and maybe they do, but there's a few angles you can take from this. One is if they do end up benching Broderick Jones, do they play him fully at left tackle? Because as I said, he played left and right tackle. He was like a swing tackle today. What's really the point of doing that? Do you need to get him acclimated to left tackle by also mixing in right tackle reps, or should you just play him at left tackle the whole time instead of swing tackling him around in practice? I think you should play him at left tackle the whole time. If he's not going to start, he needs to be the left tackle on the second team every single day of the week. Period. That's what I would say. And so that's what I would like to see. And when we're talking about what Broderick Jones needs to do, I'm cool with getting him acclimated to that left side. I'm just not sure I understand the idea behind flipping him back and forth. I know the versatility is what they've talked about, but it doesn't make much sense if you're trying to get him ready to be the full-time left tackle later this year. The other is maybe you let that elbow injury heal. He's also got something going on with his thumb because his thumb is heavily wrapped, so he's a little banged up with that right arm. Both of these are on the right arm. And so maybe let him get healthy there. So the tackle situation is just a mess right now. And Broderick Jones, out of those three, has probably been number 3 in terms of performance. But a second year, first round tackle, I mean, you don't want that guy going to the bench. You want him to learn. But I've been very vocal here about how I just feel like the Steelers have really struggled with getting this technical base rebuilt for him. And right now, he's still a very raw tackle. And so that's where it is. We'll kind of see where it all goes. But, I think eventually this season we will see that Broderick Jones left tackle, Troy Falatano right tackle. But this week, not sure that's going to be what it is. It very well might be Dan Moore and Troy Falatano. If today's tackle reps in practice are any way to go about it, that's what it's going to be. And so we'll see. That's an interesting lineup choice. I don't think the Steelers' offensive line was bad at all against the Falcons. I don't think they were like super great, but I think they played well. And I think Broderick Jones had his best performance. Maybe the Steelers want to get him acclimated more to left tackle as he moves back there, and they want to let him heal from some of these injuries, and so he'll be the swing tackle. Again, that's not encouraging if you are the Steelers, and you don't want to see that. So we'll see. We'll see here on out. I also think, and something I want to touch on. We talked about yesterday how Arthur Smith with the rollouts and doing this awesome job of creating comfort for Justin Fields was so important to that win. And he confirmed today basically that the reason they didn't throw to the middle of the field was because they didn't want to test Jesse Bates or Justin Simmons. Smart decision. But as we said yesterday, I think you're going to have to change it a little bit for this game against the Broncos. First of all, the Broncos safeties and linebackers to me are the weak points. I mean, Alex Singleton had some rough tape last week for them when you go back and watch it. I think PJ Locke had some tough tape as well. Now, Brandon Jones is an interesting player. I don't think he's a bad player. And Cody Barton as well, can be caught out of position. And so I really look at it and say, man, this is a Pat Freiermuth game. And that's what I think this is going to be. Now, they're going to target George Pickens enough, and obviously he's going up against Pat Surtain, and those guys are going to have their matchup. They're going to have their duke it out matchup on the outside. I'm sure Surtain might even follow him into the slot, but this team needs to feed Pat Fryer. They need him. The other tight ends too, I'm sure are going to get some looks, but Muth is your alpha receiver in that tight end room and should be the guy where all this funnels through. So when we talked about quick game yesterday, that's kind of what I'm envisioning with the quick game. I do like this Broncos defense a little better than most people in Pittsburgh think. People in Pittsburgh, I feel like, think the Broncos defense is like a bottom 5 unit. I don't think they're a great unit. I don't even think they're as good as the Falcons were, but I do think they are a middle of the pack unit that can give you some issues if you don't properly plan for them. I think they have a nice front. I like Zach Allen. I like John Franklin Myers. I like the edge group of Baron Browning, Nick Bonito, and Jonathan Cooper. Obviously, you have Surtain, and I thought Riley Moss, who had some struggles last week against Tyler Lockett, I thought he showed some encouraging things too. So young corner learning, that's something to watch out for. But I really think that this Steelers offense should run through the tight ends and more specifically run through Pat Freiermuth in this game. If you look at tight ends last year against the Broncos, they were 30th against the tight end in EPA per play. They struggled a lot, and unlike the Falcons, who were 32nd last year, they didn't add someone like Justin Simmons to erase those. So there is no one in this room to erase a tight end like Pat Freiermuth. He feels like somebody that should be at the forefront of your game plan this week. He's a good enough route runner. He settles down in zones. The Broncos, I think, ran 68% man coverage last week. And so you need guys that can win in man. I trust Pat Freiermuth to win against those safeties or win against those linebackers. I also would like to see a nice dose of Jalen Warren and Najee Harris and even Cordero Patterson at moments because I think you could do a lot of cool things against this linebacker group if you could single them up against these running backs. And so running backs and the tight ends this week feel like big. And then you can obviously get George Pickens involved in different ways. But this should be a big time Pat Freiermuth game. That's what I think. And so we'll see if they can get that going. But I imagine 88 is going to be a big part of the game plan this week. And then we'll see what happens at tackle again. As of right now, I am expecting the Stars to be Dan Moore Jr. at left tackle and Troy Fautanu at right tackle, which is a wrench into everything. So we'll see where that goes. All right, everybody. Thanks for listening to Steelers Breakdown here. Make sure to like, comment, subscribe, turn on notification if you're listening this on YouTube. If you are watching this, sorry. If you are watching this, make sure to like, comment, subscribe, turn on the notification bell. If you are listening to this, make sure to leave a review. And then make sure to check out Subtext channel as well in the description, folks. All goodies down there. Thanks for watching, folks. We'll be back tomorrow.